The thing with Mouthpiece is like there was no metal in Mouthpiece at all.
No, it was all hardcore.
Which I think is one of the reasons that, like, even though
with
I found
breakdowns, but
I found that LP like boring in when it came out. But now I kind of like that LP. I sort of think it's bad, but I sort of think it's great at the same time. Like, I joke that if I was going to start a hardcore band, it would sound like the Mouthpiece LP, even though I don't even think the Mouthpiece LP is spectacular. But there's something about like the fact that it doesn't sound like a typical mid-90s hardcore record with a super metal influence. It's very, I mean, I guess basically I'm saying it would sound like Chain of Strength.
Yeah, well, Mouthpiece, in some ways, they kind of are like, I think they're a really, the thing is, I didn't like, we were talking about the other day, the whole Varsity Jacket, the Jock, like, I didn't like the vibe, but I always did kind of like Mouthpiece, and I'm sure you saw them a bunch too. Like, they're a really good band. Like, they're awesome.
Yeah, I saw them, I think I didn't see them a lot. I saw them 2 or 3 times, but
they're a good example of I think they carried this. They were obviously very aware of it, but trying to carry the spirit of hardcore. But I think it came through so well with them because Tim is so like he was like fanatical about in a sense of about what hardcore is versus like what it was becoming at the time. And
because they had like weird little
a lot
beefs.
of conviction,
like beef with Frail and stuff.
What was the beef with Frail? You talked some shit about. I mean,
the basic gist of it is I think they were playing a show with Frail. If you think about like early Frail just is Mouthpiece with the guy from Honeywell on vocals. If you want to like simplify it, singing about
musically.
phobia, like that's basically what it is.
Having an autistic meltdown about being picked on or something.
Yeah, and Mouthpiece were important. So the general gist of it was I think that Mouthpiece were playing with Frail, and Frail did the like thing that bands did at the time. They'd get on, half their set would be spent talking about issues that were important to them. And Mouthpiece got on and said something to the extent of, "This is hardcore. We're not going to give you a bunch of fucking speeches. This song is about hardcore," or something like that. I am massively paraphrasing because, again, it's been 100,000 goddamn years since I would be aware of this. But, like Eric from Frail was super bummed out by that because he was a Mouthpiece fan. That was like important music to them. Like like starting a straight edge hardcore band in New Jersey, you're listening to Mouthpiece, or Flag, whatever. Yeah. But so like Mouthpiece was like pretty over what was happening. I imagine like them playing with Chokehold, even Chokehold probably irritated the shit out of them with the speeches.
Yeah, it is interesting. I think that the hardcore thing in New Jersey was Frail from New Jersey. No, they're from Philly, but that's pretty close. Were they divisive? I feel like they were a trendy band for a minute.
I think older people found them cringy.
Yeah,
I remember
I find them cringy now.
Randy and Vic from like Studio 158, which is a space where I used to see shows in the 90s, and Randy Larson, like he would make fun of us for wearing Frail shirts or being like, "Oh, they'd be like, you need to be excited, one of those twitchy bands is playing," meaning like a bunch of skinny kids like flailing around because they of course had sense and were listening to Today is the Day, which I should have been doing.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Finn McKenty showed a Frail clip recently and was laughing at it. I don't know if you saw that, like making fun of the. I mean, it is cringe. I feel bad for Eric, honestly. He's probably like, it's like that Homer Simpson thing. He just disappeared into the bushes.
I mean, I haven't talked to him since like whatever New Bedford Fest 1996 or something, but I got to imagine that's got to be one of those things where like if people at work are sharing the video, you're like, oh god damn it.
It's like that piece that Sam McPheeters wrote for Vice years ago about YouTube when he was like just the horror of like the fact
don't want you on the radio debating hardcore guys from 1987 to resurface. You want it to stay in 1987.
or just his antics, like because I think he's kind of come to grips with the fact that he has mental health issues and was just sort of acting out when he was younger, like at shows and stuff. And so I think he may have described his years of men's recovery project as being really rough. Like his mental health was fucked, you know. It was just he's like, people thought that was creative. I was losing my fucking mind, you know. And I was really miserable, and then just touring too, I think was really triggering. I don't know what his diagnosis is, but like I think he's got this. But yeah, Frail, man. But I don't know. I have reluctant respect for whatever that Frail shift like was kind of cool. I like them. I have a Frail.
Well, it was like necessary. I mean, the other thing that is, I really like it now still, where they ended up at the end. Their sort of stripped down quasi Swizz thing that they were doing on like their last few songs. That stuff aged really well, I think.
I gotta check it out again. Yeah, because the other thing too, in terms of the cringy vocals or whatever, though, like there's not that much difference between that, or there's not a huge amount of distance between that and Native Nod. It just seems like a more like high gain, like it's more worked up, you know, and the music's a little different. But I think Native Nod records, I loved them then. I can't listen to them now. They're really beautiful looking, like the way they made the whatever that Art Nouveau-ish looking one or whatever and stuff.
The blue one, yeah. No, I mean, that kind of vocal I have a real hard time with now.
Me too.
You know what I mean? Like it has to be recorded so well to work, because otherwise, because it's just annoying. And the other thing is that it makes everyone sound the same. That was like the worst thing about that. And
because anyone can do it.
Because everyone just ends up, you know, it's like kind of the problem with like the like black metal vocals that all sound the same. And it's just like, I always felt like the most disappointing thing about Dead Guy or like Tim Singer's legacy was that like Tim Singer's voice sounded like Tim Singer, and you'd think more people would have embraced that. Like, oh, I don't have to do a thing. I don't have to do like a certain type of scream or a certain type, you know, like how all the pop punk bands all had that same style of vocal by like 2001. And you're
dude,
just
I heard Hot Rod Circa on WFMU the other night, and I wanted to like leap out the window. I was like, how the fuck do people listen to this shit? The formula, like that was by like it was like Promise Ring and Texas Is the Reason kind of, and that like that era kind of got the ball rolling. And by 2001, everybody's singing and playing in the same way. And
I think it's interesting because I think when music becomes very formulaic to like a genre, that's like a sign, like, and especially if the band is popular, it's a sign that it's just a lifestyle accoutrement. It has to sound that way to get bought by a specific audience, to be part of their lifestyle. And that's how you end up with these vocal styles where it's like, it's black metal, it has to be like this. It's death metal, it has to be like this. It's pop punk, it's got to be like this. Whereas the special stuff is always just the first person to do that.
Yeah. I'm not trying to segue in, but I would say like Sean McCabe is a good example of somebody who had a really distinct, he just sang the way he sang, and he's like
he sounds like Sean McCabe on every record.
Yeah.
Or that, even the dude, I mean, there's like so many examples, but unfortunately there's not enough examples, but like the dude from Botch, like you could hear, he was obviously influenced by stuff, but you could hear his voice. He didn't just push it into pure screamo, where it's all interchangeable high pitched bullshit or whatever.
Yeah.